So let's talk about Git. I think your feelings until the end of the bootcamp, whether you'll have a lot of joy or pain, will depend on your ability of listening in the next 45 minutes. So working with Git can be something fantastic or can be a pain in the ass. Yeah? So that depends on how organized you are or how committed you are to follow a bunch of very simple but important steps. So when talking about Git as a team or working with Git in the context of a team, there are essentially two ways we can deal with code, essentially. So the first one, you already know that, is a branch-based collaboration. Branch-based collaboration means you got the master branch, yeah? At some point you want to add some sort of business logic, so what you do is you create a branch. So imagine that you want to add a new feature to Codeflix about adding a login system, yeah? So then authenticated users can save movies into favorites, blah, blah, blah. So then you create a branch, for instance, favorite movies. So then you do your local coding, blah, 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 blah. You commit and you push to that branch. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to say that. So you commit and you push to your branch. So you do blah, 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 blah. And then you do git commit. You know, you've been doing that already, yeah? Then you do git push. So what else? What do you do after pushing to your local branch? You are done with the task. You want to integrate it into master. Merge it. Are you sure? So you merge it directly without any review or anything? A pull request. Yeah, let's be precise with the terminology, guys. We create a pull request to, for instance, Rochelle. So I'm asking her, hey, I'm done with my sexy feature. Please review it. Yeah, and then Rochelle will say, please change for each with map, whatever. So then I do the changes, and then I ask Rochelle, please check again. Whoa, best code I've seen in my life. No, that's stupid, right? I mean, Rochelle accepts the changes, and then what happened after Rochelle accepts the pull request? Again, Kaini? Merge, correct. Merge into master. So essentially, we are here. And what else do we need to go to do regarding the branch? Correct. So, or changes in master, yeah? And then delete branch, and that's it, and then we start again, yeah? So the features are live, so then we can once again create a new branch for the next feature. Yeah? Many companies block direct commits to master, yeah? For safety reasons. So if you want to implement a new piece of code, you always have to create a new branch, do your stuff, then you create a pull request, then eventually you merge by a pull request rather than by a push, git push. Yeah? I mean, that's what you already know, and technically speaking, this is likely the way you are going to work as part of a team. But then you may be thinking, hey, wait a minute, if that's what we are going to do, why now are we introducing a new sort of collaboration methodology? Let me explain the new one, and then we'll see the differences. It's pretty similar, but there are some subtle yet important differences. So this is a branch-oriented way of collaborating. Now I would like to introduce a fork-oriented way of collaborating. The starting point is the same. Yeah? There is a project, master. The main difference is, when talking about branches, you are the owner of master, yeah? You are the owner of your Codeflix project. And even though you are the owner of your project, you are asking someone else. But technically speaking, you could ignore that person, yeah? Because you are the owner of the project. Yeah? However, Well, talking about a fork-based collaboration model, there is the master branch created by someone, yeah? And then what you do is you fork it. You fork it literally implies you create a copy of the project in your personal GitHub repo. Yeah? So with a branch-based model, there is just one repo. You may be the owner or you may not be the owner. Yeah? If you join a company, obviously you won't be the owner of the product, but the company will invite you to collaborate on the project. But there is one repo. However, with the fork-based model, there are multiple repos. So once again, even though that will be the probably most common use cases scenario when working on as part of a team, thinking about your future, that's not the best one. Why? Because if we follow this strategy, that will imply I will go to, you know, at Codery we got a corporate account, so that's a type of user in GitHub. Yeah? So I could create your repo, and then I could give you access, and then you will create branches, and that will be super simple and fantastic. However, if I'm an employer, the first thing I will do is check your profile, and I wouldn't see that collaboration that easily. Yeah? When you're an employer, the first thing you do is you go to github.com, you will share your GitHub on your CV, on your portfolio, whatever. Yeah? So you will share your your GitHub profile, and then if I'm the employer, I will say, all right, let me check which repositories that person has been working with. Yeah, that's what I will do as an employer. So if you work on a branch model environment, that information is not that easily available. Of course, if I'm very nerdy, I will go to the overview and I will see how many commits and push you've been doing, and that's very good, yeah? But the thing is, many companies, they don't go that deep. They just do a quick overview on your projects and stuff like that. And at that time, at the moment, what you need is visibility. What you need is more projects on GitHub. That's why I prefer to have a fork-based model. And also you will learn how forks work. So as a side effect, even though once again, to me, this wouldn't be probably the most natural way of collaborating. First of all, it will have a positive impact in your profile, and then you will learn a different way of collaborating. So if working as part of a team, it's not the best way or the easiest way to work, then ignoring the visibility in your profile when that approach is really valuable, when you are not part of that company. Let me give you an example. Have you heard about the concept of open source? What open source means? Correct. Everyone can participate, improve the software and stuff like that. Yeah. So let me give you an example. Imagine that I wake up one day and I said, "Hey, React is bullshit. I can do it much better." So I decide to start contributing to React like hell, to the core, to the source code of the Facebook project. So I will go to github.com, or let me search GitHub React. Let me find the GitHub repo. React is obviously open source. That means if you have the time and obviously the ability to contribute to this project, you can do it. Yeah? Actually, there is more than 1,000 developers worldwide contributing, which is good. Yeah? A lot of people is definitely helping. I mean, some people sometimes is scared about, hey, but I don't have the ability to modify React. Yeah? But in many different aspects, many of these contributors, they are not adding like weird algorithms. They are maybe I'll tell you something, just maintaining the docs. Imagine that you find a typo. Instead of learn, it says earn without the ill. Yeah? So collaborators can be doing silly things, yeah? But that's obviously appreciated. That's obviously appreciated. So anyway, regardless of how involved you are, imagine that I want to modify React. It could be just a typo, missing colon on the text, or it could be something very complex here. It doesn't really matter. I want to collaborate. So do you think I can ask Facebook, hey, add me as a collaborator directly, or give me write access to the repo so I can do commit and push to React code. Of course, that's not the way it works. That would be absolutely dangerous. Yeah? So the way it works is, see that button? Fork. Fork, look at the icon, means there is a single repo, this one, the one owned by Facebook, yeah? Facebook React, but then I would like to copy it. I would like to create literally, that's a copy paste. Yeah? I'm like, you know when you copy a folder in your system, Control C, Control V? That's the same. I'm copying the project to my personal space, to my personal repo. Why? Well, because if I copy it, you know, I have a lot of freedom. I cannot break the original Facebook React. I can break my version of React, but that wouldn't affect the original Facebook code. And that's actually what I would like to show you today. Look at what I've done. I have created, as part of the Codery organization, imagine that you are not affiliated to Codery at all. This is just a super cool project and you want to participate, like React, Vue, Angular. Yeah? So you won't really have write access. However, now I'm talking as a random user, I'm not affiliated to Codery at any level. So what I'm going to do is to click on that button. So that's the first thing you will have to do as part of your team app. Yeah? That code has some files and folders. This is just a sample app with Create React app with a React logo. So there's nothing really exotic, but that's actually what you will do today. So I will need you guys to send me the ID of your team app. Just the ID. The ID is just a word like that. Yeah? Think about a simple word or a combination of words separated by a hyphen, by a dash. Of course, avoid any weird characters like tildes, underscores, yes, few words, whatever the ID of your app is. So when you send me the ID, I will do literally that. I will create the skeleton of your project. So once you got that, you will create on that button. And look at what happened when I click on this button. Yeah, are you sure you want to blah, blah, blah? Yes, let's do it. So, and then look. Forking. Forking means GitHub is copying the project. And now look. Now I got the same thing. You see, this is not Codery/sample project. Actually, I can open both in parallel. So now the project is duplicated. First of all, I'll show you. That's the original one. You see, Codery. That's the organization owning the product, / and then the name of the repo, sample project. Good. But I now, on top of that, look, I got a copy of the project. This is my username. Yeah? My username and then the project. And look at this tiny but important message. Fork from, so GitHub understands where that piece of code got copied from, obviously. Yeah? So now, because I'm the owner of that copy of the sample project, I can do whatever I want. Yeah, I don't have to ask permissions to Codery or to Facebook. I can do whatever I want. Because if I break it, I broke my own code. I'm the owner of that code. That's the point about open sourcing. You are the owner of that bit of code. Correct. So let's do that. Let's do some changes to that code. Yeah, and then we will ask Codery, hey, I've improved the quality of your software. Do you mind integrating my changes into your repo? The same thing we will do with Facebook React. Yeah? I've improved this algorithm in React. Do you mind merging these changes into the React project? Yeah? So that's what I would like to do next. So first of all, we need to check out. This is only sitting on the cloud, but I want to work locally. Yeah? I want to download that code, do some changes, commit and push. Yeah? So nothing particularly complicated so far. How can I start working locally? You see that green button, clone or download. I'm sure you deal with that already. So first of all, please guys, you have to copy that string, that URL, yeah? And then what else? Well, then we go to a terminal, yeah? Because essentially we are downloading an existing project. On the first day of the bootcamp, and even on the portfolio activity, you created a project locally, and then you push it to the cloud. But this scenario is slightly different. You are not going to create any new project because the project is already there. Someone has created a project, and now you want to incorporate yourself. You want to help on that project. So when you create a new project, you write create React app, sexy app, yeah? And then that creates a new app from scratch. But that's not what I want to do now. I don't want to create any new app. I want to download an existing app. So how do we do that? The syntax is git clone. Clone means copy that locally, and now you paste that address that GitHub gave to you. So once you do that, you see, pop. Now I got all the files and all the folders copied into my local drive. So if I go to VS Code, I can open that project. I got sample project. Again, that's the copy. Yeah? That's not the official from Codery. That's the copy. That's the forked version. So if I open it, oh, that's the files I've been touching. All right, so let me, I don't care about that. Let me close that. So let me open the project. Don't save. Here we go. Cool. So now you will be super familiar with the folder structure because that's literally the same thing as CodeFlix or the portfolio, app.js, and then, that's essentially the same thing. So now, can anybody tell me how do I start the server? Interesting. Let's go to the new terminal and let's type npm start and look at the outcome. npm start. Oh. Error, as expected. Command not found. What the hell? What command not found? Say it again? JSON, what's JSON? JSON file? The package.json? No, yeah, there is. Look. No, look, I got package.json. I got start. So yeah, that looks good, right? That looks good. However, if we pay attention to the error, React scripts. Yeah, so it's definitely trying to run that line of code, but it's not working. The reason is, that's very important, guys. Whenever you check out, whenever you clone, whenever you copy, whenever you download, whichever verb you want to use here, whenever you pull a new project from the cloud, the very first thing you need to do is to install the dependencies. Do you remember when you installed, for instance, React Router DOM or React Router DOM? Do you remember, guys, there was a block here called dependencies? And I told you, if you do the data save, your new and sexy package will be saved here. So if someone else wants to collaborate with that project, he or she knows how to install it. But the thing is, yes, so I know this is the list of dependencies I have to, This is the list of dependencies I have, come on, I can do it. One more attempt. Yeah, here we go. This is the list of dependencies I have to install. So technically speaking, I could type here npm install, for instance, React. Yeah, React. You cannot see pretty much anything, but anyway, npm install React, or you could do npm install React scripts. Yeah, because scripts is one of the dependencies. Or you can do npm install React DOM. Yeah, or all the others. Yeah. We don't really care about which dependencies we got here. It's the first time we're collaborating with that product. We have no idea about that, but we just need to install them. So another question is, of course, we can install them one after the other, but is there a way in Node to tell, hey, just please install them all? That's correct, Chuck. If you just type npm install without passing any additional parameter, so now Node will understand that we want to install all these dependencies at the same time. So when you do create React app, you remember the command to create a new app, create React app portfolio. You've done that already. It takes 2 or 3 minutes. The main reason why it takes 2 or 3 minutes is because of that, because it's installing all the dependencies that you need to sort out locally in order to start working with that application. Any questions so far? Cool. So I mean, as you've seen, this is not that complicated. Yeah, we got a project, we just fork it in the cloud, we download it, and now we are installing the dependencies. So the next thing I would like to do is, once this process finishes, I would like to start the server, see if it works. Yeah, that's the first thing. Before doing any change, hey, let's see if I start coding from a healthy point. Because if it doesn't work, if I do any further change, how the hell I'm going to check if my change added any value if it didn't work before my change? Yeah? So, yeah, that message looks good to me. So now let me try npm start again. And now, it's not failing anymore, starting the server. That looks promising, guys. That looks very promising. So what you will see now, hopefully in a minute, is the React logo spinning in the middle of the screen. And if that's the case, then I will propose a change to Codery. Here you go. Yeah? That's cool. That's cool. Yeah? So that means that, yeah, of course, the app I've cloned works fine. So let's propose a change. So we got the title, and now, let's add a message. Or let me change the title to H1 Megashark versus Crocosaurus is one of the best movies ever. Yeah? So we access the title, we want to collaborate with that piece of software, and then we refresh the page. And after we refresh the page, let's assume that now the title got improved. That this is going to be our fantastic collaboration with Codery today. So once we are happy with the changes, commit and push. Yeah? There is nothing exotic, like working with Codeflix. You set a message here, updating title to improve, to, engage more customers, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. Obviously, make sure that your title is descriptive enough. So you commit, and now you push. Look at the tiny loading bar. So now, in theory, yeah, it's trying to push. It looks like everything worked fine. I mean, if something goes wrong, VS Code will spam you with red messages on the screen. If nothing else happens, I'm going to assume that's okay. But because this is not based on assumptions, this is based on science. So, first of all, if I go to the original repo, the Codery one, and I refresh the page, will my change be reflected? In other words, will I have 5 commits instead of 4? Why not?
Because you wish you did the copy that you had on our profile.
That's correct. So, guys, this is the official repo. It would be crazy if I would be able to change something directly without the review of anybody. Yeah? So if I refresh the page on the Codery repo, on the official one, nothing changes. Nothing changes. You see, last commit was 1 hour ago. Yeah? But what if I go to my fork version? Will I get 5 commits instead of 4 if I refresh the page? Let's have a look. Refreshing. And then you can see my sexy title 1 minute ago. So definitely now my change got submitted to the cloud. So now, I mean, of course, I could continue adding changes, blah, 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 but let's guess that, we are done. We're exhausted. We've been working like hell, 8 hours to update the title. So now I want to ask Codery, hey, please, Codery, could you please review my changes? So when you deal with branches, how do you ask someone to review your changes? A pull request. So that's literally the same. Now we're going to create another pull request, but rather than creating a pull request from a branch to your master, we create a pull request from your fork to the original repo. Yeah? But that's the same idea, the same principle, the same mechanism. FYI, technically speaking, when we refer to the original repo, technically speaking, we refer to it as the upstream. Upstream is the technical way to describe the original repo from where you fork and you play with. Yeah? That's the upstream. So let's create a pull request from our fork pointing to the upstream. So we go to pull requests. You see here, pull request. new pull request. And now, you see, you got a lot of freedom here. You can decide from where to where. Look at the arrow, that's very important. Yeah? So from where do we want to create the pull request? From my personal sample project, that's the origin. And then the target is, that's it, the upstream. Yeah? The arrow tells you the direction of the changes. They go from my local to the upstream. All right, so, I mean, and then, of course, if you scroll down, I know you tend not to do that, but if you do that, then you can check what's going on at the moment on the upstream, that's the original title, and then what's going on my fork. Yeah? So then it's like you got the last chance to review your changes and the last chance to spot something stupid you've done after the third can of cheap beer. Okay, so then once you're happy with that, you click create pull request. Of course, you can set a title, whatever. Yeah, it goes without saying that if you are collaborating with a real piece of open source, I mean, you should be very descriptive, because the thing is, if you are asking Facebook, please approve my changes, the first thing they will ask is, who the hell are you, right? So make sure that your pull request is sweet. It's something that Facebook is definitely keen to deal with. It goes without saying as well that if in your CV you talk about collaboration with open source repos, it's like, that's super cool, yeah? Super cool. First of all, because you prove that technically speaking, you know how to collaborate with open source projects, and then it's all about the attitude, like this person likes to help, to improve software, it's really good. I'm not asking you to collaborate with Facebook React, but there are thousands of projects out there. And once again, when talking about collaboration, it could be something as simple as checking the description of the project, finding a typo, yeah, missing dot at the end of the sentence, and create a pull request. That's it, yeah? At least you prove that you have the attitude of helping. That's it. All right, so once you do that, create pull request, blah, 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 blah. And now what? Well, so now your pull request has been created. So interestingly enough, now I can merge the changes. If you send the pull request to Facebook, that button won't be here. Yeah? The reason why I can approve my own changes is because I'm the owner of Codery, so yeah, that's a bit special. Also, I'll tell you something, you will have that button enabled. Yeah? Why? Because I want you to play the reviewer role as well. You will create pull requests, so you will ask someone else to approve your changes, but you will review others' changes. So I want you to play both roles, the requester and the reviewer. Yeah? That's why here we're doing a hybrid between working as a team and contributing to an open source project. We're doing sort of a hybrid. Yeah? All right, so imagine that I'm not Ricardo anymore. Now I'm someone else with admin rights on Codery, and of course I check the changes. I mean, you know that already, right? You can essentially you can now, if you were the reviewer, you've done it already. You can review the changes, and then you can approve them, or you can reject them. You've been doing that, so there is nothing new in this process at all. But you know, let's approve the changes. Let's assume that these changes improve the quality of the software. And now, look, that's interesting, right? I cannot click here. Pull request authors cannot approve their own pull request, which makes sense, yeah? So I cannot play that hard, but you will definitely be in a good position. You will be able to do that. So let's ignore the approval flow and let's just merge them. So if I merge the changes, now what happened here on the upstream? If I refresh, do you agree with Florin? Will I have 5 commits here? We've merged the changes. So in theory, yes, we should have the 5th commit in a second. If I refresh the page, well, we got 6. We got 6 because of the way Git squash the changes. So you can ignore the number. But definitely you can see that if I click on the details, that's the old code. Yeah, that's the old title. And if I scroll to the right, you can see the new title. So definitely the changes got merged into the official upstream branch. So when you created a branch, then you deleted the branch once it got merged, yeah? Because that branch was over. So now it was time to create a new branch, blah, blah, blah. But now, do we delete the fork? That's correct, Florian. So once you finish one task as part of your team app, you don't want to delete your fork. You want to pick the next one. Yeah? So you don't really delete the fork. You continue working with it. However, in this particular case, if I go back to my local code, I got my title updated because I introduced that change. But imagine I'm working with Camila and she's done that change. If she's done that change, that will imply, technically speaking, my local code will still refer to the old version because she's done the change, she's merged into upstream, but I didn't get the changes from the upstream yet. In other words, let's try to draw a picture. So we got upstream, we got Camila fork, and then we got Ricardo fork. So Camila has done some changes. She's done a pull request. Pull request got approved. And then, correct. Change merge. So that means, yeah, upstream updated, as Florian said. Yep, that's all good. But now, technically speaking, I'm behind them. Because they have been playing a ping pong game and they have updated some code, but I don't have that code. If I've been on holidays for 1 week, then what? Yeah. So I need to synchronize myself, not with Camila. You never synchronize with other forks. You synchronize with the upstream. The upstream is the source of truth. Sometimes you will be ahead of the upstream. Here, Camila was ahead of upstream because she did some changes that were not part of the upstream. Then she synced with upstream, so she was in sync with upstream. But now I'm behind upstream because I need to incorporate the changes from my colleagues into my local repo. That's the most complicated part of dealing with Git, and that's the worst part of not just Git, but coding in general. Yeah? Why? Because if you fail to synchronize your fork with the upstream often, and often means twice a day at least, you will have serious problems. It may drain your productivity, not just for that day, for the whole week. You don't want to be in a position where you've been doing nothing for a whole week. Not here. Imagine working as a company where you've been completely unproductive for a week. So this is super important. You have to sync from the upstream all time. Let me repeat that because it's going to be on YouTube. You have to sync from upstream all time, at least twice a week. So next time you tell me it doesn't work, I don't know why, I will go to your history. I will see you haven't synced from the upstream in 2 days, and I'm not going to solve your problem. I'll redirect you to this moment in time. Hello, student from the future. Yeah, I'm here to help you virtually. Cool. So how do we sync from the upstream? It's just we need to run a bunch of commands. It doesn't mean that if we are super committed, if we do that every minute, we are not going to have that problem. I mean, this is not rocket science. So how can you have a big problem here? Once again, imagine I've been on holidays. So I haven't touched my code at all. But in the meantime, I hope you agree with me, Camila has changed that line. She's updated the title of the app. And I didn't, when I came back from Bahamas, I didn't fetch, I didn't got the code from the upstream. I didn't care. I said, all right, that title is crap. So then I'm going to add a new title. So what do you think will happen when I try to create a pull request?
It's going to say that you're behind.
It will tell me two things. First of all, you are behind, but being behind is not a bad thing, necessarily speaking. But the big problem you have here is you have a conflict. You have a conflict because you are trying to change a line of code that someone else has already changed. That's a conflict. That's a conflict. So you have to solve all your problems locally. And once you are in sync with master, then you keep working on top of it. Because otherwise, you, at the moment, I'm behind and ahead at the same time. This is mind-blowing. I'm behind because I didn't incorporate the changes from Camila, but at the same time, I'm ahead because I've added more changes on top of something I didn't incorporate it. That's the worst case scenario you will have in your professional life. Yeah? Because of that, before doing any single line of code, before typing anything, you have to type a series of commands. And before typing these commands, at the end, essentially, we want to synchronize with upstream. But how do we synchronize with upstream? Look, if you type git remote -v, it will show me where in the cloud my project is. And look, is this pointing to my fork or to the upstream? And why? To my fork, which is correct. Look, because that's my Ricardo username. Yeah? So thanks to that, thanks to these two lines, I can push the code to the cloud. That's fine. So I'm not against that. The problem is, I cannot get my code from the upstream because I don't really know where the upstream is. I don't know the address. So I need to add a new address. And that's something you do only once. Yeah? It's a one-off activity, but you have to do that. So how do we add the address of the upstream? Well, that's pretty simple. You go to the root project once I create it, and then the same thing, clone or download. So you copy the address, but pay attention, that's the upstream, that's not my personal, that's the central project. Yeah? So you copy that, and now the syntax to add that upstream is git remote add, like I want to add a new direction in GitHub, upstream, you can type whatever you want here, but that's like the keyword associated to the central repo, and then you paste the upstream URL. And that's it, git remote add upstream, blah, blah, blah. So now, if I type git remote -v, I got both. I got the origin, that's my fork. This is where I will do all my dirty stuff. And I got upstream, that's the official repo. So once you've done that, it's time to write the magic 4 commands that you should write down in a paper and leave that somewhere nearby. These are a bunch of commands you'll have to write all time. Let's go through them. Git checkout master. I mean, half of them are pointless in this stage of the journey. So git checkout master, this is just to make sure you are working with master. You didn't create any branch or anything like that. All right, no problem at all. Git checkout master. Your branch, you are already the master. So that means, that was completely pointless, but that's fine. Let's just in case, let's do it. And then the second command, git fetch upstream master. You see, git fetch upstream master. So that will download any metadata about the upstream. That won't try to pull any code. Yeah? So nothing to do with your files and folders, just the metadata, contributors, last update time, hashing, metadata. That command is unlikely to fail, so that's easy peasy. You copy and you paste it, no problem. Now you will see Git, yeah, new branches, whatever, fine, no problem. The controversial one is the third one. Here is you will have preferred to not to be alive at this state of your life. Yeah? Git merge, that's the controversial. This is where Git will actually try to combine your code with the upstream code. It will try to merge both. Yeah? So if you forgot to run that command on the last couple of days, it's where you'll suffer a lot. So Git merge upstream master. So if I actually, yeah. Just copy that line. That's the syntax. I'll share that on Slack. Git merge upstream / master. That's the syntax. Yeah? That's the syntax. Actually, let me do something wrong. Actually, let me try to change the title. So I don't think that command will work now. It did work. Because I didn't commit the changes. All right, is that real? Okay, yeah, because I was the owner of my code, so sometimes Git tries to solve the problem by itself. That's why it worked here, because Git realized that my older version was, let's say, the one on upstream, so I was actually ahead of upstream, and then blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So in some scenarios, if you are lucky enough, it may work, but you are likely to have problems if you do that. Yeah? So anyway, the happy path is something like that, fast forward, no errors at all. If something goes wrong, you'll get lots of red text here saying conflict, 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 and then you need to deal with that. But that's a separate story. And the last thing is, all right, so we've synchronized with the upstream. So that means that potentially, if Camila has changed the title, now I got Camila's changes. So I need to send these changes to my own fork to the cloud. Yeah? So this is just git push. So git push will update my fork, and now it will be completely in sync with the upstream. So git push origin master, that will essentially send any potential change to my fork. So in other words, we've got different actors here, as you probably have noticed already. You got the upstream, that's remote, that's only on the cloud. You got the fork remote. You got the fork local, and that's for each team member. Yeah? So for each team member, so that could be me, but then Esteban can have the same. And the way, if Esteban wants to do a change, he will send a pull request to the upstream, and once it gets approved, I will fetch the changes, yeah, and on the other way around. So I don't share the code, I don't send a pull request from here to there. You always send a pull request to the upstream, because that's the main source of truth. Yeah? That's not particularly complicated, but it may take a while to fully get used to that. Yeah? You are not allowed to commit and push directly to the upstream, even though, once again, technically speaking, I will give you access to that. Why will I give you access? Because I want you to play the role of the owner of the repo. So I would like to give you the role of reviewing others' code. But technically speaking, commit push and then pull request. That's the way you'll be working from now on the team app. Yeah? That's the actual way companies work. Commit push, pull request. Commit push, pull request. Yep.
When we fork the project, do we still create branches on the
Fork? That's a good question. If you fork the upstream, do you create branches on your fork? That's up to you. Technically speaking, that makes a lot of sense. In other words, if I want to collaborate with Facebook, I fork React, fantastic. But then, on top of that, I mean, it may be a team of us helping Facebook, not just me. What happens if Facebook decides to hire all of us to improve React? We will fork React, but then we need to organize ourselves. So we need some strategy. In that particular case, we will be creating branches on top of the fork. Yeah? So we will be, how to say that? So we will got React upstream, and then we will have, or let me change that, Facebook/React. That's the upstream. Then what we will have is Codeiry/React fork. On top of that, we may have, so fork master, so then we may have branch 1, branch 2. Yeah? So the way that we'll be working is, for instance, Rochelle, you will be working on a feature on the React, and Ji-Yoon may be working on something else. So once you finish your feature, you will send a pull request to Codeiry. And for instance, me or Esteban, we will review what you've done. So once your changes get incorporated into the into the official fork, into the master fork, then we will send another pull request to Facebook. Yeah? So towards Facebook, we are a single person or a single organization. Facebook will have no idea if we've got branches or not. Yeah? But internally speaking, of course, we will be working with branches. So thinking about the team app, do you have to create branches? That's up to you guys. That's up to you. That's up to you. If you feel very comfortable with that flow, it may be a good idea, yeah, to add a bit of some spicy flow to the team app. If you don't feel very comfortable, my suggestion is just create the fork, work on master on that fork, and then create a pull request to your colleagues. Anything else?
Yeah, can it be like 2 pull requests at the same time to the upstream?
Absolutely, absolutely. If you go to Facebook,
So how Facebook deal with
look,
conflict between pull requests?
technically speaking, you may have hundreds of pull requests running in parallel. However, even though we could both create a pull request, a similar scenario, right? So I go to app.js, and then so my title is I'm the best. And now Andrea is changing the same line of the same file, saying, no, comma, I'm the best. Yeah? So you see there is a conflict of interest. Because if we are both touching the same line of code, and we both create a pull request, isn't it a conflict? Well, the way this works is first come, first serve. In other words, yes, both pull requests may be live at the same time. However, the merge button, you see, remember the merge button, the green one, won't be enabled for both. So as soon as you merge your changes, I won't be able to merge my changes. I mean, technically speaking, it won't be possible. GitHub won't allow me. The green button will be disabled, and it will tell me, you cannot merge your pull request anymore, because 5 minutes ago, Andrea has introduced some changes that conflict with yours. So if you want to proceed with my changes, then
Do another pull request?
no. You don't do another pull request. You go locally, you run these 4 commands. On the third one, you will get a conflict, yes or yes. Like you are trying to change the title, but Andrea did that already. Yeah? So I will have to clarify what's the expected scenario. how do you solve conflicts? That's a bit beyond the scope of this session. But essentially, once you get a conflict, you know, on the Git view, yeah, when you add a change, you go to the Git view, and then you can see the changes of since your last commit. Yeah. So in here, when you click on the file, VS Code will show you like a visual prompt. It will tell you, hey, Andrea wanted to add that line. You wanted to add this line. Which one wins? So you will be able to select which is the valid code at this stage of the journey. Yeah? And once you fix that conflict, then commit and push, and suddenly your merge button that was disabled a minute ago, now it will become enabled, because at that time I will be ahead of your changes. Yeah. So there is some complexity in here, of course, but that's why starting from today you are going to work on that on a weekly basis. Yeah, we could be talking hours and days about Git. Git is a very, very complex world, but at this stage of the journey, once you know the basics, I would like you to struggle. Why not? To struggle a bit with it. Is it much better if you struggle now than if you struggle once you start working for a company? Yeah, so it's time to struggle. Just bear in mind that Git is a super powerful world, but it's very complex at some point. Yeah? So take it easy, and the key for success somehow is run these 4 commands really often. Do you know who created Git, by the way? Who looks after Git? It's not Microsoft. No, it's Microsoft's biggest enemy, historically speaking. Yeah, it's Linux. You know Linux, the operative system. Yeah. So before Git, there were other version control alternatives. However, towards Linux, they were not powerful enough. So Linux said, hey, wait a minute. If nothing works for us, Linux is a big project. If I search GitHub Linux, look at how many commits. How many commits you got at conflict so far, roughly? 20? 25, 15, something like that, right? Let's have a look how many commits the Linux Foundation has. Almost 1 million. Yeah? Huge project, infinite contributors. That's a friendly way to tell you, plus 23,000, a lot of people. So this is probably not probably, I'm sure this is the most complex piece of open source ever created, and still alive, and very active, of course. So definitely they needed something extra powerful to deal with all these 24,000 contributors creating pull requests and merging and stuff like that. Yeah? That's why they created Git. It's a fantastic tool, but once again, it may be challenging to handle sometimes. Anything else?
So who is managing the merge and pull requests in the team?
You as a team. So,
All of us can link and actually like manage everything together,
yeah.
like a Scrum Master.
There is no Scrum Master here. You will play the Scrum Master role. You will play the developer role. You will play the business analyst role. You will be playing all the roles. So the long story short is, please send me 2 things. I need, first of all, the ID, the name of your project on the Slack. Once you send me the name of your project, you don't need to send me all together, just one person on each team. Then I need you individually to send me your GitHub username. Because once you send me your GitHub username, I will grant you access to the project I'm going to create. So that will give you the role of reviewer. Thanks to that, you will be able to approve code written by your colleagues. So I just need these 2 things. App name and your personal GitHub name. Please send it to me on a private message. There is nothing private, but otherwise I may miss your name in the list of messages on the general channel. Once you got that, I will create the repo for you on the Codery organization, and I will let you know the URL. Like, hey guys, hey Alpha team, hey Bravo team, here is your app. It will be something very basic, React logo, but with the basics. So then what you will have to do is go back to the beginning of this session, what we explained at the beginning. Git clone, npm install, and then you start working on it. One last thing. We've been talking this morning about how to create tasks. Yeah? So before working on something, I mean, with Coldflix, you got a list of tasks. But with the team app, it's pretty much the same thing. You will go to issues, and then if you want to build a header for the team app, for instance, then you will click on new issue, and then you will specify what are you going to build next. Why we do that? Well, first of all, that's a very good way of booking tasks. Imagine that now you talk about adding a header. So creating a header for the team app, whatever. Yeah? Who is doing that? Well, you need to agree who is building that piece of functionality. Technically speaking, you can select an assignee. That's a good way, that's a very elegant way to book that task. Imagine that I'm the assignee and I come to Codery tomorrow, and on the stand-up, Esteban is talking first, and then he says, I'm building the header of the app. Like, what the hell? Why are you doing that? We agreed that I was going to do that. Yeah? So thanks to GitHub, you can track who is building each part of your code. So my suggestion is create a backlog of tasks, I don't know, 10, 20, whatever, just the roadmap of your team app. And then once someone finishes a task, checks the backlog and pick the next one. Yeah? Without any particular order. Well, that's up to you. That's up to you. Yeah? You would need to think about priorities and things like that. Yeah? I'm not going to have any influence on that. And of course, it goes without saying that task will have an ID. So every morning on the stand-up, you should say, I work on task number. I mean, let's do that, right? If I create that task, submit new issue, then once I start working on that, I will take a POSIT, creating a header for the team app with hash-free that will identify the ID associated to that task on the Agile morning stand-up session. Anything else?
Is it best to send pull requests to everyone in the team? So for example, if I change something, I send a pull request to everyone. So
That's a really good question, Camila. So on your first task, should you ask everybody in your team, please review what I've done? Or should you ask someone individually? Yeah? This is a long-term discussion. There's an ongoing discussion. Many people have different opinions about that. I will tell you my approach. If I ask 4 different people, please review my code, you know what will happen? No one will help you. Yeah? No, because people will be busy doing other stuff, and they will work on the assumption someone else will be not as busy as me, so he or she will have time for Camila. Yeah? And eventually, even though you may be thinking that will speed up the process of merging my changes into the upstream, it's on the other way around. The more people have to take the ownership on a task, the slower that will get sorted. Yeah? So personally, I'm a big fan of asking someone with my finger, individually, because all the responsibility is on his or her shoulders. And on the daily stand-up, it's not about, yeah, I've asked my team to review my changes and no one is looking at you. Eh? But if you ask someone, Florin, I ask you. You are the responsible of my lack of productivity. It's big words. It's like that, yeah? Like that. Obviously, I mean, try to be polite and friendly. So for instance, if Florin is reviewing your code, on the next task, ask someone else. Don't bomb the same person all the time, yeah? Because you are a team. So the idea is to get everybody involved. Yeah? But personally, when I create a pull request, I will point to my finger someone, random, I don't care, but someone individually that can get the accountability on my progress. Anything else?
Yeah, so when waiting my pull request to get merged, can I create a branch of my project and keep working?
That's a good question. What happened? I mean, to be honest, that is not related at all, has nothing to do with whether we have a fork collaboration strategy or a branch collaboration strategy. It's the same thing. Yeah? You ask for some review. What do you do in the meantime? So technically speaking, you could create a new you could create a new branch and continue working, but this is going just to add more complexity on your tree of changes. So unless you feel very comfortable with merging, syncing, forking, fetching, unless you feel very comfortable, my suggestion is once you've done with your task and you are waiting for somebody to review your changes, my suggestion is do something else somewhere else. Work on your portfolio or work on conflicts or training, do something else, yeah? Because otherwise you are likely to have issues orchestrating all your mess of branches and everything. But if you feel comfortable, feel free to create a new branch and do new stuff with it. I'm not against that. Anything else? No? All right. Thank you, guys.